Okay guys, so just on my way to the gym now, driving through the absolutely crazy Dubai traffic, but I'm going to do my best to film a short video here. So I am driving to the gym, but I'm not actually training today. I'm going to do a little bit of work. I'm going to jump in the sauna. I'm going to get a nice clean meal and do a few steps. Every 3 weeks, I would say, I wake up probably one of those days during the week and I'm just not motivated to train now. I think it's unrealistic to expect yourself to be motivated to train every single day, but I'm someone that generally, I do really love my training. I'm not gonna lie, 95% of the time I am very motivated to train. So for me to wake up and not really want to train, it's an indicator that maybe I need to focus a little bit more on recovery and maybe I just need a day off. At the moment I'm training for a half marathon whilst doing my weight sessions as well. So I'm pretty much training every single day, even though some of those training sessions are just zone 2 recovery runs. They are obviously workouts, but they're really not taxing on the nervous system. So I don't think I've had a day off exercise fully in probably about 2.5 weeks. So I'm taking the decision today to just focus on recovery. So I thought I'd make a video on recovery and just go over some of the basics in my routine that I do daily, weekly, year round to promote recovery. Some of them will be fairly obvious and some of them maybe you haven't thought of in as much depth or maybe you've not heard of them before. So the obvious ones of training, as I've just explained there, is what I refer to as auto-regulation. So essentially giving yourself permission to change your plan slightly and maybe do a little bit less. If we look at that from a weight training context, it could be taking a deload week or maybe just 2 or 3 lighter training sessions if you're underslept or you're struggling to recover. And I would say with weight training, an indicator that you're struggling to recover would be that you're actually struggling to progress in your sessions and you're really sore. Of course, soreness is normal, and of course there are going to be some weeks where you're maybe not able to progress at the rate that you usually do, but nonetheless I would say sometimes maybe you need to pull the volume and intensity back, which brings me on to, so I'm just going roundabout here, brings me to auto-regulation. So adapting maybe the weight and or the intensity of your session. So a good thing to do is, I'm a firm believer that you should still go to the gym, follow your normal training split so that you stick to routine, because I find a lot of people, when they deviate from their routine, that's when they kind of fall off completely. But what you could do, let's say for example on your compound movements that you usually push yourself to 1 or 2 reps away from failure, which realistically you need to be doing in order to build muscle mass if you do have at least a couple of years of experience in the gym, is maybe you can work further away from failure. So maybe leave 3 or 4, maybe even 5 reps in the tank compared to what you usually do. As I said, that's going to allow you to still go to the gym and tick off your workouts, but it's going to help give your nervous system a little bit of a break and promote recovery. So auto-regulation is a really effective way to still get things done, but allow yourself to recover. If you look at that from, an example with endurance training, maybe with running, maybe you were really sore, and again, maybe you were underslept as an example, and you had a programmed interval session. If you are going to push your heart rate up into maybe, the high 160s, maybe even the mid to high 170s, that's going to be very taxing on your nervous system. So maybe you would be better off actually just doing an easy run instead. So one of my clients at the moment is actually prepping for a marathon, and he is on a scheduled recovery week this week, and I'd actually programmed him a short interval workout. I think it was like a 1.5k warm-up, 2x4k at race pace, and then a mile cool down, I think. But he was just really sore from a big week of training the week before, so we just took the decision to do an easy run instead of an interval session there. So switching your training up a little bit, and most importantly reducing the intensity, again, can be an effective way to promote recovery there. Next thing is nutrition. Now, it goes without saying, if you want to get the best results in terms of your physique and performance, you need to be hitting your macronutrient targets year round. For our clients, we will give them a protein target, which is dependent on their body weight. Usually we recommend between 1.8 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, depending on the client, their body weight, the amount of body fat that they have. We'll give our clients a fat ceiling, so we try and recommend that they don't consume over 75, 80 grams of fat a day. Again, it's going to be lower for lighter individuals and females. And then the rest of their calories will come from their carbohydrates. So obviously protein is really important to promote recovery and allow your muscles to break down and then build them back up. But carbohydrates are really, really important for recovery as well. I think a lot of people don't think that. They just think of carbohydrates as an energy source, but they're actually going to promote recovery as well. So make sure you're hitting your macros, even if you are auto-regulating, as I mentioned in the previous point, and you're not training as hard. If you are running like a deload week or a recovery week, like I am sort of doing at the moment, still hit your carbohydrate targets to help you, again, to help you promote performance, but also recover as well. So nutrition is really, really important. The next thing would obviously be the big one, which is sleep. And I think this is something that I really didn't appreciate probably until I would say probably the last 3 years in my training journey. Like, I've been training since I was 14 years old. And I think it's fair to say, back then between the ages of maybe 13 and 22, you can survive off 5.5, 6.5 hours sleep consistently. I used to do that when I was at uni and I was PTing, and I never saw any kind of detrimental effects to anything in my life really with my training and my work. But now I really, really notice the difference. If I'm having, 2 or 3 nights sleep that are under, I would say, 6.5 hours, I really notice differences in not really my training, but more with my performance, with my work, my alertness, my motivation to work as well. So sleep is the big one. I always refer to it as, it really, really is the foundation of health. So make sure that you are trying to consistently sleep accumulate at least, I would say, 7 hours of sleep per night, preferably much closer to 8 hours of actual sleep. I know that is unrealistic for quite a few people there. And the next biggest tip for me with sleep would be, make sure that you are trying to stick to a consistent sleep and wake cycle. So trying to go to bed at fairly similar times each night and waking up at fairly similar times each morning. I like to give myself a little bit of a buffer though. So if I'm used to going to bed at 10, if I need to work a little bit later and I need to go to bed at, I would say 10:30, that's okay. And then trying to wake up for me usually between 6 and 6:30. Don't allow yourself to stay up to 1 a.m. one night and then go to bed at 8 p.m. the other night. Your body is not going to know what's going on. So sleep is a massive, massive one for promoting recovery year round, regardless of what phase of training you're in. And obviously the more volume of training that you're doing and that the more highly stressed you are in work, the more that sleep is going to have an impact there. So it is a massive one, and I say I've definitely learned the hard way there, and I really, really wish that I'd worked on it more when I was younger. And then once you've nailed down the basics with sleep, training and nutrition, I would then start to layer in other things like sauna, maybe ice baths as well. But I really think these are kind of like the extra 3 to 5%. I think a lot of people are probably dedicating too much time to saunas and ice baths, when actually they should put more effort and maybe invest a little bit more money into quality nutrition, and maybe investing in a coach to actually write them a proper training plan. So at the moment, I try and get in the sauna 3 to 4 times a week for at least half an hour, and I find that really, really allows me to de-stress, which allows me then to recover and get into deeper sleep and things like that as well. So those are just some quick fire basic tips. Training, auto-regulation, essentially changing your training in line with how you feel, but not missing sessions. That's not the goal of this video, is to tell you to miss training sessions, but to adjust things when you need to. Nutrition, making sure that you're hitting your macro targets 95% of the time, and then give yourself a little bit more flexibility on the weekends maybe, depending on what your goal is at the moment. If you've got a fat loss goal, it goes without saying you need to dial things in, whereas if you're maintaining or lean gaining, maybe you can be a little bit more flexible with your calorie intake, but make sure you are hitting your minimum protein target and getting enough carbohydrates in your diet to promote performance and also recovery as well. Sleep is the big one, and I think one that a lot more people could work on, and it's ever changing. I'm always trying to go to bed at the same time, but I have to move things around with work and stuff like that. So that's a big one for me. And then lastly, the other things like, trying to get in the sauna and ice baths and things like that. So those are a few things that you can do. As I say, they are fairly basic tips, but I think it's useful to kind of like re-inform people of this and continue to try and hammer those things home, because we can assume that all our clients know these sorts of things, but these are the things that we bring up in check-ins, and these are the things that we notice with our clients when we're tracking their data as well. A lot of people are not getting enough sleep, a lot of people are missing their protein target probably 2 or 3 days a week, and a lot of people are scared to consume enough carbohydrates to allow them to really perform and recover. So I hope you found this video useful, a little bit of a shorter one, but I'm definitely going to do a lot more of these raw videos where I just give some insights and tips when I'm on the go.